I consider the Indian club and the movements in the Indian club to almost be an upper body equivalent of jump rope. As a strength coach and a physical therapist, I just don't prize the jump rope because it's a leg activity. I prize it because it sets the posture sometimes better than running does. And I always say you can slouch when you jog and run, but it's self-limiting when you do that with a jump rope because it forces the posture without me coaching it in an authentic way. So there's going to be a lot more happening here than just a shoulder workout. So if that's all you're thinking about right now, seeing Brett turn the club, you're missing everything. There's posture, there's breathing, there's position change, there's rhythmical, circular activity that basically gives you shoulder mobility and stability and creates unbelievable skillful movement.
When we're looking at the elbow and we're doing these circles, I'm going to be driving that elbow up across my body as high as I can. So we're going to be really particular about where your elbow goes. Because if you're blocked out of certain ranges of motion in your shoulder, you're going to think that this is normal, and it's not. What we should have is this big circle where we're crossing midline and able to create those full shoulder range of motion. Gray, what are we going to do?
Well, in many of the exercises we've done in the past, whether it's kettlebells or cable bars, we always would rather create reflex stability than coach stability. Now, we coach movement pattern, we coach presses, pulls, swings, chops, and lifts, but we shouldn't have to coach your balance, your authentic core reflexes. Those should happen. But since many times they don't, most trainers and most therapists are left like, what do we do? Well, we forget that the developmental sequence that we all go through helps us get the integrity of our reflex stabilization in the first place. Right. Secondly, in a very sedentary culture, people who have overtrained in one direction or don't train at all develop these things called upper and lower cross syndromes. Vladimir Janda talked about those. You can Google them. It's basically when prime movers think they're stabilizers and stabilizers take a vacation altogether, both in the upper quarter and lower quarter. Here's our solution. We're going to take you to a tall kneeling position first. The people who basically rely on quad dominance, hip flexors for their core, a lot of unnecessary shoulder and neck tone, can basically break the pattern. And that's the first thing you do. Stop the bad behavior before you start training a good one. So in this position, in this tall kneeling position that you've used and seen with kettlebells and cable bars, we can actually bring the clubs here. And we can go through our club patterning here. Now, you're having to manage your weight shift differently, and you don't have your quads and your hip flexors at your disposal. This helps the trainer see the mistakes so much more clear, because Brett, you don't have to watch my foot and ankle, and you're not responsible for my knee right now. All you have to watch is my height, because if I still think my core is in my thighs, you're going to see me do this in my turns. You're going to see me use my hips to manage instead of my stability to manage. But once we've got that, we're not even close yet. We've got to work the hands here and here. But then instead of using this half kneeling that would interfere, we still want the weight. So we're going to open that up into an open half kneeling stance. And some people are going to get a stretch. You can end up just doing some mobility right here first. But once you get that pattern, we're going to go through your club patterns again, open here. Now we're going to do it both legs, both sides. So that's going to work out any asymmetry, any problem, and really challenge you to use your postural muscles for your posture. When you're standing up like that, you can use a lot of things for your posture, and they're not all the best things to use. Once we've done those, we're going to come up to this classic stance that Dr. Thomas has shown us in a lot of the black and white photographs, and you're going to tell us some reasons why we're actually standing, because everybody's going to want to, well, can we stand like this? Can we stand like this? We want that base to be narrow and those feet slightly outturned so we can get that pelvis into a good position. And you're going to hear when we coach you to preset that pelvis, and Doc talks about this, if we don't preset soft knees and a tilted pelvis, what's going to happen if we get into a shoulder compromise here? We're apt to hyperextend that back or contort that neck. So we're going to work our way up to this position. It would seem in the literature many times that this is the starting position, and it may be the starting position for people who move authentically without problems, but we're not in that time and place anymore. And most of my pro athletes, when we start a kettlebell press or when we start some chopping and lifting, we do. And you can ask the pros. We start in half kneeling and tall kneeling, and it saves so much coaching of the core. The core is supposed to be reflex. So those positions are going to be used correctly for each of the 5 movements to get us to this point.
Oh, and now we're picking up speed.
And then it begins to move.
Awesome. But the patterning is slow. You can
Yes.
break it down into any segment you want.
Yes. Of course, we encourage everyone to do it well before you do it fast.
Great cue. Do it well before you do it fast. I
Let's
love
see
it.
full movement one, both
go, both
clubs in
clubs.
action,
Clubs.
and that way they have a standard for movement one as they practice.
You can cross right in the front and left in the front. In fact, alternate.
Excellent.
Perfect, perfect.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas. We're going to get Gray into tall kneeling, and we're going to start working on that movement number one.